Welcome to the bizval podcast. At bizval, we are passionate about empowering entrepreneurs the world over to understand and unlock the value in their business. We work with advisors and entrepreneurs to demystify the value creation process when building a business. At bizval, we know how tough it is to grow and run a business, which is exactly why we've made valuations simple to understand, accurate, and affordable. Our unique blend of tech and touch ensures that you always receive the best service, authentic human engagement, and data-led insights to ensure that you build a business that provides you with freedom and choice. In the bizval podcast, we showcase stories of real entrepreneurs and advisors, sharing lessons and inspiration from their journeys to make your journey just that little bit easier. And today I'm thrilled to be joined by Cruz Gamboa, the founder and CEO of Ascend Growth Ventures. Cruz has had an incredible career expanding, Unilever, GE, and corporate America before stepping out to build Ascend. It's a firm dedicated to helping founders scale their businesses beyond the sort of magical $10 million mark with clarity, discipline, and purpose. Cruz, welcome and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Graham. It's great to be here in the show, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Fantastic. I mean, we're talking a little bit about this pre-show and saying we're just going to have a conversation. For those of you who've listened to the bizval podcasts, it's about a conversation. So, Cruz, you've been in the US now, I think 22 years, if I remember correctly.
In interruptions, I lived in Latin America for a little while, then came back. Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. So tell us a little about your early journey. Where did it all begin? A bit about your upbringing, and yeah, how did you get to where you are now?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So look, I was born in Venezuela, okay, and when I was 14, um, I don't know if you remember that guy like Hugo Chavez, like he literally like tried to do a coup on the Venezuelan government. And actually, I was watching like the planes when they were like, when they were trying to take over the country, and I was just like, I just need to get the hell out of here. It was just like that at that moment, I was just like, I'm just gonna get the hell out of here. I don't want to live in this country. This is crazy. And so basically, my mind started solving for that. And like literally when I was like 16, 17, I by completely by accident, I learned about this program that gave scholarships to individuals, talented individuals with, you have to go through all of these hoops and whatever, and like, take tests. And I did all of that. And I got a full tuition scholarship to come study in the US. So that took me 4.5 years. And then, when I came back, because when I graduated, I came back again to Venezuela, and I literally stayed like 6 months, got a job at General Electric. Well, at first at Unilever, then I moved to General Electric, and then after that, I never went back. So I initially my path took me to sort of the CFO route. So I was in finance. I was initially at GE. I was a finance trainee, they call it the FMP, Financial Management Program. And from there, I became finance manager, FP&A analyst. Then later, I went to G Capital, and that was just one of the most fantastic experiences I've had, because it allowed me to see a ton of deal flow, just learn how a lender will look at a company. I was basically my clients were mid-market companies, and we did like $50 to $75 million loans. So it was really fun. It was really interesting. I mean, I got to apply a lot of the stuff that I knew on finance. And then I realized that I also like helping these companies grow. That was the thing that excited me. I was like, when we closed the deal, it was not only about closing the deal, but just about getting them the capital that they needed in order to get to the next level. And I always, we had that model back then, like eat what you kill. So when you close the deal, you have to stay in the sort of in the portfolio management of the company. So for me, it was a fantastic experience to see, you know, closing the opportunity, closing the loan to the client, and then just kind of like shepherding the whole process throughout the years, and like how, like, the additional people they hired, the things they built, how they grew, and being able to go through the ups and downs and be there with them. And I think that kind of like, that energy somehow has followed me, because after I did that, I became capital markets leader for GE, just helping all of our clients in Latin America to get funding. So here again, I was another quote unquote almost consultant to all of GE clients who were trying to look for capital, and just helping them come up with ways to finance GE equipment, or to finance the projects, sometimes to even get equity from some of our the network of investors of General Electric, sometimes with local investors and whatnot. So that whole experience ended up taking me to the power industry. So GE had a division called GE Gas Power, and they had the biggest, largest deals, at least in Latin America, and probably in anywhere else, to be honest, because every gas turbine is like 30, 50 million bucks. And yeah, so I got, because of my finance background, my capital markets background, it was a perfect fit. And I was doing the same thing that I had been doing from day one almost. And yeah, so that took me to then become CFO of the business, which as a CFO, I spend a lot of time doing CFO things, but also talking to clients and helping understand like sort of their needs, and also most importantly, working with the team to give them financial intelligence to sort of structure our offers in a way that it would be like irresistible for our clients, so that we could win more business. And that's what we did. We had a record year in the year that I was in as a CFO. Between me and the general manager, it became a $2 billion region, when in the past it was like combined sales and new units were like less than $800 million. So it was a big scaling success. So all of that led me to other opportunities. Then became business development, sales, became back then, I wanted to start going more. I was kind of like, I was really interested in not only doing like gas turbine stuff, but I also wanted to do more like clean energy type of projects. So there was an opportunity to become the decarbonization leader for the Americas. I took it. So that was a really interesting opportunity. Then after that, I went into a startup, and then I opened my company. So that is the sort of the complete history of how I got to where I am. But as you can see, there's just something that has been there's some like breadcrumbs along the way, right? I left breadcrumbs to get to where I am. First of all,
I
it
mean,
was
it's
yeah. Go ahead.
it's fascinating, and sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, I think when we first met, our stories are quite similar in many ways. As having started career in corporate, and I think it's quite interesting. Like nowadays, it's quite binary. Are you in corporate or are you an entrepreneur? The two are kind of like mutually exclusive. But I think it's not so much about that. It's actually an evolution and a growth. And even if you're in corporate, if you take the opportunities to learn and grow and discover different things, it's not as though you land in a job and you stay in that for the next 30 years. If you're naturally curious, and you wanting to figure out how to do different things, there's a ton of opportunities. And if you just kind of, as you say, follow those breadcrumbs, it kind of leads you down a path. You don't quite know where it's going to end up one day, but it's about having a mindset, I guess, that says, hey, if an opportunity presents itself, do I take it or don't I? And making those decisions. And it seems like through your background and your career, that's pretty much what happened. From the days as a 14-year-old kid saying, hey, listen, I want to get out of here. Maybe that was your initial motivation, through to where you're at now. It was that sort of, yeah, following the breadcrumbs.
1,000%, and I will tell you more. I will double down on what you said, because a lot of people say, "But Cruz, like you're a corporate guy." At some point, that was one of the things that people told me, and I was just like, "Yeah, I was, but I was just not like any other corporate guy, right?" Because I was working with clients. I was actually at some point when I worked at NBC when it was owned by General Electric, and for example, I was part of the business development group doing
Yeah.
just incubating new companies. So right there. I was being a sort of a startup employee or a startup, not a founder because I didn't found them, but I was supporting the growth of them. So that's been a part, like something that has been always a part of like what I did. And like I'm just keep like
Yeah.
I'm doing therapy right now with you, okay, Graham? So so I'm remembering my gas power years with General Electric,
Yeah.
and I, now that I think about it, it's I was pretty much doing. I mean, I had free reigns. I was just doing whatever I thought needed to be done. I mean, I
Yeah.
had very little supervision. I mean, I was lucky enough that I closed a couple of big deals. My first big deal was an $800 million deal, and it was like redefined, like it totally redefined the way we did business in Latin America. Then I supported another project that was like $1.2 billion, and then I had other smaller ones. I took a client from like zero. It literally, I was thinking about that yesterday, to be honest. This company in Argentina had like it was a very successful family in the agro business, and but they wanted
Hmm.
to be in the power business. They understood the magnitude of the power business, and they just wanted to be part of it. And but they had no experience. So I literally sat down with them from where they only had like a PowerPoint, okay, to helping them
Wow.
identify the right resources, to helping
Yeah.
them identify what would be a strategy for bidding, to helping them identify like how much money they would require, what were their risks,
Mhm.
okay, then to navigating GE so that we can actually help them and take a certain amount of risk that was still palatable for GE, and it would make their deal financeable, to
Yeah.
actually getting all of that executed, to actually getting the financing from the banks, to actually getting our money, because we actually ended up helping them a little bit. So getting our GE's money out of that deal, and doing a, basically creating a syndication for that opportunity. So I helped them from like zero to $1 billion companies. And I was like, and
I
I
mean,
somehow I forgot about that, Graham. I was just like,
but fortunately, you weren't in Jack Welch's bottom 10%. So so you didn't get fired at your performance review. So you had a little bit of headroom, so to speak. But I want to just dive in a little bit. I think something you spoke about earlier. You said that you had this philosophy at GE that if you invest, you stick around, and what were the words you used? You kind of have to get involved in the business. And a lot of investors aren't like that. They're passive investors. They invest and then they kind of step away. But I guess that did a couple of things. One is you had to have conviction in the investments you were making. And then you technically, I guess, had skin in the game, even though it wasn't your own money. There was definitely emotional skin in the game in those investments. So maybe if you could just talk a little bit about how did that culture kind of influence things? I mean, you could have been at another investment firm where it was like passive investing, but do you think that shaped a little bit how you think about the world?
I gotta tell you that my experience is very unique, Graham, because General Electric is very much a company that at least that the General Electric of the past did not
Mm,
reward like risk taking to that degree. Like risk
yeah.
taking had to be socialized. It had to be like
Hmm.
you have to have a lot of grown ups in the room to support something that was risky. It was and it took a lot of convincing, a lot of aligning people, etc. For me, the first deal that I closed, the $800 million deal, it was a big power plant. It was a matter of
Mm,
survival, okay?
mm,
Because back then I was married to this woman who was Argentine, and she wanted to live for a few years in Argentina, and I got
mm,
transferred to Argentina just because I wanted to please her, I guess. And so we there was nothing going on in Argentina. There has been
mm,
five at that point. It was like five combined cycles for each for $800 million. It's like $4 billion that we just GE didn't see, didn't even participate. I think they only sent,
mm,
like, I think it was just a quote or something like that. It was not even, they were not even part of the bid. Okay,
mm,
so
mm,
I understood, and my boss said like, hey, we'll give you a couple of years, okay, to develop this market. But if not, you're coming back, okay. So for
Yeah.
me, it was about survival. I had to do it.
Mm.
And I think if you want to take the sort of the wisdom from the situation, is that when you when you are in when you put yourself in a situation where it's really scary, okay, that's where you have the biggest opportunity for growth. And even if it doesn't go your
Mm.
way, because it could have not gone my way, okay, I could have
Mm.
not have closed that deal. Let me be absolutely clear. I got lucky, okay. Well, lucky. I mean, I did a lot of work, which, one day we can talk about like how it affected me. But it could have gone the route of me not being able to close the deal, and then
Mm.
having to decide whether I was going to maybe not come back, go somewhere else.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It would have been a different reality, but in the end, it doesn't really matter, because what happened is
Mm.
what happened. And I can assure you that all of that fear, all of that stress that I went through, in a way, it felt really bad and scary at the time, but it really made me who I am today.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
Right.
it was not about the results. It was
Mm.
about the journey.
Absolutely. I think, sometimes whether you succeed or fail in the traditional sense is a matter of luck and timing and circumstance. But that ability to kind of deal with what's in front of you and make a decision around that, good or bad, I think is actually the entrepreneurial spirit, right? Is, you know, dealing with what's in front of you. It's a bit like the breadcrumbs. Yes, you can plan ahead, but that's only possible to an extent. So I want to move on a little bit from that. So you've been at GE, you've been in corporate. You know, was there anything in that sort of corporate journey, and you had a lot of success, but what in the corporate space started to frustrate you? What were the things that kind of led you to say, "Oh, maybe I want to step away and try my own thing"?
That's well, this is certainly feeling like therapy today, Graham. So I'll go there. Okay. So first of all, I love my years at GE. They were great. Okay. And I learned so much. So I am absolutely 1,000% grateful, okay, of my experience. And I have so many friends, mentors, and people who like really
Mm.
like shape me, okay. And I
Yeah.
have people that were assholes, and they also shape me. So I'm also thankful to them, okay. So I will say that towards the end, what what was happening inside of me is that I was feeling that I had, in a very strange way, I had had this very entrepreneurial career within General Electric, kind of like covertly, you know what I mean? Like it was not supposed to be like
Mm.
this entrepreneurial, but I was kind of like doing my thing because I was getting lucky. So people were like,
You're an
just let him,
entrepreneur,
yeah,
basically.
like just let him figure it out, because they knew that I
Yeah.
had a good, a strong financial background. I understood risk. Okay. So when I
Mm.
actually identified an opportunity and I took it for our management, they knew that there was a there,
Mm.
and they knew that I thought it through, and they knew that I
Yeah.
mean, they just needed to get on the same page. Okay. But they trusted me in making a good, sound decision to do business and for the company.
Yeah.
So I think that worked for a while. Okay, that worked well for a while. I mean, I have my ups and downs, of course, but it worked really well. At some point, what happened is that somehow, especially towards the end, I think it had to do maybe with the dynamics of what was like the companies possibly splitting. It just became like,
Mm.
to me, it just became too frustrating.
Mm.
I joined the carbon solutions team, and I was working for an amazing manager, Eric Gray, which I totally like respect him, and he's just an amazing person. But just the environment around the company was just not good, and I had so many
Mm.
people that were like trying to pull me in different directions. And I just felt like this is just, I don't feel it anymore. I felt like I was getting misaligned with
Mm-hmm.
the company. Like I wanted to do something, and the company was no longer providing a space for me to grow. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to make it big in clean energy, make it, sort of like I wanted to do bigger things. And I felt that there was always, somehow we always found a way to make it more complicated than it needed to be. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And and then some of it probably was something at the personal level. I was just not yeah, I just like I love you. There was some, we were no longer aligned, and that happens. You know, that happens with in relationships with your partner, with friends. I mean, sometimes you just change, and you're no longer the same person. And then at some point, towards the end, I had a couple of situations that happened with clients and the way that they were handled, and it was just like just the way it was more about the like the culture that I was experiencing. I was just like, I don't want this. You know, it's like I exhausted my stay. Let me put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know, and then I was starting. I felt like I was checked out. I
Mm-hmm.
was checked out. You know, and as a leader and as a person, I didn't want to be checked out. You know, because that's
Mm-hmm.
not who I am. I'm always all in. Okay, that's how I like to be. How my number one value is authenticity, right? And integrity, with not only integrity with the things that I do, but with integrity with myself. You know, being in
Yeah.
alignment, like what I'm doing is what I want to do. You know, I believe in,
Mm-hmm.
because that's, in my opinion, that's how you get that $800 million deals close, because you believe in
Yeah.
it, right?
Mm.
You can't be half pregnant in life. You know, you're either doing it or not doing it, but kind of doing it is not good.
You're
So
gonna be all in, hey?
you have to be all in. Yeah. It doesn't matter what happens, because people are like, well, you're not, I don't know, you're not Elon Musk. Oh, sure, you're probably
Yeah.
not either. So that does that mean that you're good or bad? I mean, that's not how I define my own success.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just think that we just need to be clear, and like what success means for us, and we need to be clear
Mm-hmm.
on whether at any point in time the thing that we're doing is the thing that we're choosing. Okay, because that
Mm.
ultimately, that's what allows us to go to bed and have a good night's sleep, and not be overly thinking about our situation, try to blame it on others, or play the victim, which is even worse.
And ultimately, I guess that's what growth is, right? You go on a journey, and growth is being able to recognize when your path needs to change directions, or it needs to converge, whatever the case might be. And it's not that GE suddenly became bad or you became bad or whatever the case might be. It just meant that you were growing on different paths. And you probably woke up one morning with kind of a feeling in your gut that, like, now's time for me to venture into something else. And you followed that. So what happened next? Okay, so you left the corporate world, um, and you end up now at Ascend. Okay, so tell
Well,
us a
but
little bit about what you.
there was an
There was a gap
important,
in between, right?
there was a gap, yes, because I left, because I left to a startup, because
Yeah.
I already kind of knew I was an entrepreneur. I wanted to be in a startup. um, I knew it was risky, and I didn't care. You know what I mean? Because I mean, I've taken risks my whole life, and I figured that it didn't matter what happened. I was going to be okay.
Yeah.
So I left for the startup, and like, believe it or not, the first day that I was in the startup, something happened that I was just like, holy shit, I made a bad decision. The first day into the job, I just realized that just the how I, in my excitement, I had missed a couple of things. I have missed how misaligned that team was, and how misaligned they were vis-a-vis myself.
Yeah.
And so I just went through the process of trying to. I was actually like, well, maybe you are getting ahead of yourself, and I just kept going, and I just
Mhm.
kept finding more and more evidence towards the end. I mean, we were going to do a capital raise, and if you remember, like the Silicon Valley debacle happened, so the market for startups in general dried up, and we were back to having the conversation with the same existing investors, and they had a different idea of what the company should look like, and it was just like not good. That whole thing was not good in a way, but it was the best thing in the world, because it then it forced me to say, this is also not for me. Eventually I left. Okay. It was like with like 6 months, because the thing is that the company was in Colorado, so it was just really bad that I was going to work at a place that I wasn't even aligned. I just didn't see the path forward at that company.
Yeah.
So I came back and I was just like, holy cow, what should I do? Then I started looking for jobs, and between you and I just like, well, and the people that are going to watch this, I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel it. I was just like, I didn't see any jobs that excited me. Okay. And and back then my ex-wife used to be like, well, but you gotta just do something, just get something. And I was just like, no, I get you, but I just like none of this excites me. And so like within a month, a friend of mine, just out of nowhere, he's like, do you remember that deal that you helped me, when I was trying to do this? Like, you know what, now we're gonna close it, so can you come and help me do this M&A transaction? So I went and did that for probably like 9 months. And then like coming out of that, I started connecting with a company as a fractional CFO company, and I was just like, yeah, but I've been a CFO, I could do this. And I thought it would be fun to start working with different clients, so I started doing that. And then I also met this other guy who's still a friend of mine, Daniel Marcos, and he talked to me about scaling up, and I was just like, what is scaling up? And I realized that there was this framework by Vern Harnish on helping companies scale up. And quite frankly, it was nothing new, because a lot of the stuff is stuff that I covered in my MBA. But what I really loved about it, it was like there was some a framework that was organized in steps, and it had sort of a methodology, and there was a community, more importantly, right? And so I kind of like attracted myself to that, got certified, and then I started looking for clients to work with. And initially, I wasn't really clear like what kind of clients I wanted, And then it was like I gotta say, maybe like towards the end of last year is when I really became clear that I wanted to help entrepreneurs between say $3 to $10 million, because as I studied what happens for during that phase, which is post startup, post survival stage, right? Now you have a company that is cash flowing somehow, maybe not so much, but is starting to hit a constraint. That basically that constraint it can be several things. It could be the constraint on the leadership mindset. It could be a constraint in the way that you're thinking about organizing your team. It can be a constraint. It could be different things, right? It could be people, systems, technology, your network. Maybe your network, you don't have a network big enough to just get to the next level. You don't have the skill sets to market yourself. You don't have a scalable offer because you didn't really know what a scalable offer was. So all of those things become the way to get yourself out of that situation and into the next level. And for some in some industries like SaaS companies, they just grow so fast, and for them it's not 10 million. For them, probably that constraint is a lot later. Okay. But in general, I think if we took an average, it's probably between 3 and 10. That's where these growing pains happen, when people get stuck. And I felt that I could help them a lot, because I've been on the other side of, I've been on the sort of at the end of the rainbow, right? It's like when you're a corporation. Okay. So I understand like how the thing needs to look like, and like what should be like your like your leadership, your ultimate leadership style, as the sort of managerial. So but you can like back into the existing situation and start making the changes in yourself, in your company, in your financials, in the way you sell, right? In the way, in the execution rhythms, in the systems that you have today, in order to get you closer to that. And I felt that that was an easy pot for me, because I mean, I've done systems, I've done process, I've done leadership, I've done all of those things. So I had a lot to say about these topics. So that's why I'm
Yeah, I
focused.
mean, and I think importantly, if you kind of need to know where you're going, and that's where corporate helped you, is you kind of knew what the end game had to look like. And I guess, we had an interesting conversation around this with some other guests a few weeks ago, where we spoke about the difference between $1 million business and a $10 million business. And it's fascinating because somewhere around the $1, $2, $3 million mark, there's a mindset shift that's needed. And
Mhm.
very few businesses are actually able to move beyond that. I think, only 95% of businesses stay under $10 million. So it's actually that mindset of saying, do I want to go beyond being, let's just call it, there's nothing wrong with it. If my choice is to run a lifestyle or a small business that supports me and a few people, great. But if that business owner has that fire and that ambition to grow it into something more, then actually usually they need a little bit of help and guidance. And I guess that's where you come in. And Cruz, I want to just kind of delve in very quickly, like what makes your approach different? So why, people can go and read Scaling Up, they can go and read the books, they can do all of that. But why are you different to other, let's call it advisors or coaches or whatever you want to call it out there? Tell us what,
Yeah,
what makes you special.
that's a great question, because it's a question that I ask myself every time, because I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to do my own thing and be different, and have like
Mm,
my own blue ocean strategy. So what makes me different? Number one is that I believe that um, everything starts with mindset. Okay. So
mm,
if you ask me for help, okay, and then we make a plan, we define what the constraints are for your company. We put a plan in place on how you're going to, put execution rhythms with your leadership team. You're going to take this person from this position and put them there, or just exit them. Okay.
mm,
Or you're going to invest in an upgrade to your CRM system, because it's going to give us more information so that we have a better understanding on who your real clients are, and, like, what is the profitability profile of all that. And if you make all of those plans and you don't take action, I wasted my time, you wasted your time.
mm,
Okay. So if you are really committed to growth, but you're an asshole to your people, and they check out because you
mm,
feel like you need to be a hero in your own business, and you need to do everything, and you are micromanaging and making sure that whatever everybody else didn't do, you do it,
mm,
then you're not helping me and you're not helping you. So we're both wasting our time. So if you don't have the right
mm,
mindset to grow your company, I mean, no amount of like EOS, scaling up, or whatever system you choose is going to save you. Okay.
mm,
So I believe that part of the initial process that I do with my clients is just to get clear in do what is your vision? Like, what is it that you want to build? So that we can,
mm,
so
mm,
I always say this is probably like the fourth podcast I've said it, is I say them, like, place the order. What is it that you want? Be clear and be bold. Okay.
mm,
And then I get to see what they want, the founders, right? Like,
mm,
if they have a really big vision about the future, or if they have a vision that is just much smaller. Some of the limitations and the mindset, and the negative beliefs are going to show up when we do that exercise, and we talk about them
yeah, yeah.
openly. It's like, hey, here's what I'm seeing. And then, that person has two options. Either their desired is bigger than their own ego, or their ego
Mm,
is bigger than their desire.
mm,
You choose. You either, like, you know what, I want to build this shit. Like, what do I need to do? I need to change. I'll change. What do I need to do? I need to hire a person. I'll do it. What do I need to do? I need to delegate more. Yes, help me. You know,
I'm
that's the
guessing that's
first.
a big filter for you. If
Yeah,
the ego is bigger than the desire, you walk away.
I walk away. I'm not interested because it's not a good testimonial for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not a good. I'm not going to help you. Okay, it's not going to help me grow my company because you're not creating success
Yeah.
in your business. Then it just doesn't. It's not. We're wasting our time. I'd rather
Mm.
put my energy on people that are committed and they want to do this thing, and they have the desire. Their desire is bigger than their ego. That
If
is
I
the
could
way
just
that I look at it.
summarize that for you, I mean, you're about start with mindset. Okay. And mindset captures a
Yep,
bunch of things. Okay. Um, and then desire is linked to mindset, obviously. Um,
100%. It's
and
the same
then
conversation. Yeah,
yeah, and then action. I mean, I think you somebody who's lived that through your life, whether it's moving from Venezuela to the US, whether it's changing careers and all of that. So I think a big emphasis on action. And the framework is just a framework. And I think, without dwelling on this too much, I think a lot of coaches and advisors focus too much on the framework. The framework's important, make no mistake. But the framework without mindset and action is absolutely meaningless. And I think,
hmm
from what I'm hearing you saying is that's what makes you special. You focus on mindset and action with the framework as an enabler rather than the other way around.
I have a clear 4-step, what I call the 4 pillars of scalable growth. It's a framework that
Yeah.
is my own framework that I
Mm.
designed as I looked at scaling up. I looked at EOS. I even participated in the implementation of souls and systems when I was
Yeah.
a CFO for a company. Okay, and I've looked at all of that, and what I realized is there's like only 4 important things, and that I say like that so I don't forget them. So it's easy for me to talk about them. The first one
Yeah.
is your vision and mindset. We need
Mm.
to get that dial in day one. At the same time, we also need the tactical. So we're obviously we're going to look at what the constraint is, and we're going to try to identify the constraint and
Mm.
then address it as soon as possible. Okay. Why? Because my number one job within the first 90 days of our engagement is to free you up.
Mm.
If you are freed up as a founder, as a CEO of a company, then you have more time to think more strategically. So now we're leveraging you,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So that is what I do. The first 90 days is about free the founder. That's my slogan. Free the founder, right?
Yeah.
So at the same time, during those 90 days, the thing that we're doing is just getting clear on your financials. Because
Mm.
here's the one thing people don't know, and I can tell you because I've been a CFO and I've looked at other people's books, and I've seen this problem over and over. Every business is leaking cash.
Mm.
Every business. So if I'm able to, and I have some really, really cool tools, by the way, if I'm able to show you where you're leaking cash within the first 90 days, help you execute it, okay? And help you free the cash and free your time as well, what have I done? I've basically paid for
Mm.
myself within the first 90 days.
So you self-funding.
I've self-funded, but that's the
Yeah.
thing. See, that is the thing that I also, tell my clients, we need to change our mindset to like, oh, I need to make all these investments and they'll come. It's like it needs to be a client acquisition, a client's finance acquisition
Yeah.
strategy. So they need to pay
Mm.
for you. They need to pay for your stuff. I mean, and you need to create value. I mean, it's an even exchange, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
both things are true. And then once we get clear and we develop the action plan for cash, for identifying and removing the big constraint, I free you up. That's when we start having the conversation on strategy and execution. Only then,
Mm.
because it's strategy and execution is different than tactical. Strategy. Well, it is and it isn't. But strategy and execution is about like really looking at the whole thing and then just trying to get you differentiated and trying to get you to in like 1 or 2 sentences being able to say how you're going to win. What are the things that you're not going to do so that when you stop doing them, okay, and make the changes, because sometimes it's not easy to stop doing something that is actually generating cash for you. It's painful, but it's also something that you need to either like change the nature of the thing so that it is aligned with your company, or just abandon it because it's just not part of your strategy. If you have a strategy, you need to stay true to your strategy, right? Otherwise, you're wasting
Absolutely.
time. Okay, you're wasting. Most importantly, you're wasting your energy, your mental energy. So if it's something that is generating cash but it's not taking a lot of your cash, go ahead, do it, keep it. We need it, right? But if it's just taking an inordinate amount of time, and it's not, and just because you want to keep some customers happy, for example, but it's not generating you cash, then absolutely abandon. Okay, because it's in the end, when life is about making choices.
It's trade-offs. Yeah.
It's trade-offs. You stop doing that
Yeah.
and you open space for something bigger. So we need to identify what that something bigger is so that we can make that transition into the thing that you can actually scale. Within that pillar, we very much talk about what it looks like to have scalable offers. Scalable offers means that they can be delivered without you, right? That's the thing. They can be delivered without you. And that is something that a lot of founders have a problem with. Goes back to vision and mindset. So that's why we want to address it then, so that we can be like, yes, you understand that we're trying to create a company that runs on its own. It doesn't depend on you. That's why we need scalable offers, right?
That's
And then,
also where ego gets in the way sometimes, right? Because as much as owners say they want to grow, their ego stops them from doing that because they want they a lot of founders feed off that, like, I'm the boss, I'm the CEO, I'm doing everything, and if they're unable to kind of they make that mindset shift from feeding off that energy as to opposed to building something that lives beyond you, that's very hard, right?
very, very hard, very hard. And I'll tell you this, in a lot of, in this has something to do with learn beliefs. Okay. So when you have a belief, that belief generates a thought, and that thought generates a feeling, that feeling generates a reaction, that reaction generates results. Okay. And the problem is that when you have a negative belief, like for example, my team sucks. I hear that all the time, by the way. I'm sure you've heard it too. So my team sucks is I can trust them. I feel like I'm very upset because I have to do this work on my own, but I'm going to do it. Then you do the thing that your team should have been doing because you have a belief, okay? And then your team is like, they see you stepping into every little, what I call firefighting everything, and like, kind of like micromanaging them, doing the things that they were supposed to do, and then just telling them, why didn't you do it? I did it for you. And then you start making them feel bad instead of coaching them. Then they check out and they're like, you know what, Graham, just tell me what you want me to do. When somebody tells you that, you're done. That person is already looking for another job because that person is no longer engaged. Okay. And what ends up happening is a lot of the employee turnover at companies in this range happen because the belief from the mindset from the entrepreneur that they have a shitty team. Okay. And that they are the only ones that can solve the problem or save the day, right? And if you start with that belief, then how the hell are you going to create a scalable company? That makes no sense.
Yeah. It's that rescuer mindset. I've got to be the rescuer. Nobody else can do it better than me, right?
It makes no sense if you think about it. But putting that aside for a second, the final pillar is about leverage, what I call intelligent leverage. And it connects with the things that we just discussed. People. We need to think of people as leverage, not as just tools. They're leverage. If you use a person, if you have the right person with the right skill set and the right attitude, they're going to crush it. Okay. With the right supervision, the right, payment incentive structures and all of that, they're going to crush it. And you want people to be happy working with you so that ultimately they go above and beyond. They do their job correctly. They actually tell you, maybe we should do it this way. We should change the way that this workflow works, because it's, I think that it could be better like this. They're helping you in a way, right? So you need to treat them with respect. You need to, make sure that they feel excited to come to work, excited to help you, and most importantly, that they understand what the mission and the objectives are for this day, for this week, for this month, for this quarter, for this year, and for 3 and 5 years in the future. If you've done that, and if they're clear about that, guess what's going to happen? They're also in their brain, they're going to solve for the actions and behaviors that they need to do in order to get them aligned with you. And there are some that are not going to make it. That doesn't mean that the whole team sucks. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
So
it sounds so simple when you put it that way, right? It's just
it is simple. We humans tend to overly complicate things, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, what did Stephen Covey say? The 7 habits, I mean, you talk about leverage, he talks about making the circle of influence bigger, but Cruz, I mean, I guess we could be chatting here all day. I mean, it feels like we're just getting started, and we kind of have to bring it to a close. I think we're going to have to have a follow up, and for our listeners, I know we're going to meet up in Boston in a few weeks' time, so maybe we'll continue the conversation over a coffee or a beer or whatever that looks like. But I think as we wrap up, I've just got a few sort of quick fire questions for you. Sort of like one word, one sentence answer, first thing that comes to mind. I've got 5 questions. The first one, what's the biggest leadership lesson that you've learned over the last 20, 25 years?
It's about them. It's about them.
It's about them. Wow, I love that. I mean, it's not about, and that's that whole ego mindset thing again. It's not about you, it's about them.
It's not about you, it's about them. Yeah, because that's like the best antidote for leadership fuck-ups. Believe me, it's about them.
I think that's the title of a book. I mean, you can compete with Mel Robbins. Every book or a book that every founder should read.
Oh, that's a great question. Every founder should read 3 books, in my opinion. $100 million offers, $100 million leads, and 100 million money models. I love those 3 books. I love Hormozi. He's just so practical, he's and clear. And a lot of business books are really good, but they're just packed with a lot of like very overly complicated stuff. He just makes it simple,
Yeah.
I love that.
Something that makes it simple is really compelling, and I think, there's a lot of people who would be naysayers against, let's call it, whether it's Hormozi or whether it's whatever, but I think there are gems out there that you can really take and apply, and yeah, practical. It's stuff that is not just theory in a textbook. Okay, important one. I think I might know what the answer is going to be. Coffee or tea?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I love coffee, okay, but I am kind of like done with coffee for a while because it was affecting my sleep. It was giving me a little bit of anxiety sometimes, you know what I mean? So I just like I'm more like a tea person now.
I don't know. I think something triggers when I hit a certain age. I mean, somewhere in my mid-40s, those 4 cups of black coffee in the morning, suddenly my blood pressure went up. I couldn't sleep. So I've switched to drinking primarily rooibos tea, which those of you who know South African rooibos tea is great for antioxidants and all of that. So maybe we'll have a cup of tea when I'm in Boston.
Absolutely, we shall.
One company that you admire for how they've scaled. Could be a famous company, it could be somebody that you've worked with.
A company that has scaled. Oh man, I'll be like Canva. I love that company, by the way. Canva is like my number 1 go-to tool. And it's a company that you don't hear a lot about, but everybody uses it. Everybody uses Canva because it's so powerful, what they've created, and they've gone from a little tiny company into like a multi-billion-dollar company. I love that story of the Canva founders as well. So
fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like who talks about PowerPoint anymore? I mean, I don't even think AI can compete with Canva, right?
It's kind of hard, but look, I mean, there are other tools. There's Gamma as well. I mean, there's like
Yeah.
beautiful AI. There's like all these different beautiful tools. So yeah, there's a lot out there right now.
And last question, Cruz, if you could give your 25-year-old, so this would be last year, right? If you could give your 25-year-old self one piece of advice, what would that be?
Enjoy every minute of it, because you know what? You're gonna be fine in the end. It doesn't matter what happens.
Absolutely love that. I mean, one of my favorite quotes is it's kind of a line, but it's Mark Twain. It said, you know, cut away the bowline, sail away from the safe harbor, explore, dream, discover. You know, it's yeah, you got to go out there and just enjoy the journey rather than obsess too much about that destination, right?
There's only one thing that is certain. We're not escaping out of here alive.
Death and taxes. Yeah. Well, Cruz, it's been absolutely fantastic. We're recording this on Labor Day, so it's a public holiday. But thank you for sharing your journey, your insights, just the humanity and the simplicity. It's I've really enjoyed this conversation. For our listeners, you know, if you're running a company in the $3 million to $10 million space, and you want to break past that sort of growth ceiling, please go check out Ascend Growth Ventures at, I'm not going to spell it out, we'll put the link in the comments, but ascendgrowthventures.com. And as always, if you're building a business and want to know what it's worth or how to make it worth more, either head over to bizvalglobal.com or reach out to Cruz. I'm sure he'll point you in that direction as well. But Cruz, closing thoughts for our listeners and anything you want to leave them with?
It's just like well, first of all, I wanted to thank you for the invitation and the conversation. I think you did a great job with the questions and the setup. And the thing that I wanted to leave behind is very simple, is that life is good. Let's just go ahead and build it.
I love that. Life is good. Just go ahead and build it. Well, listen, that's going to compete with Nike's Just Do It one day. So, thank you for listening, and we hope to see you all on the next episode.
Thank you, Graham. Take care, man.